Joining us on the Newsmaker line, the Vice President and General Manager of the Lakers, Mitch Kupchak, with us here on Sports Watch. Very busy time for you. End result, I thought it was a magical season. The franchise grew. It rebounded. I know it was a bitterly disappointing end in the championship series, but I think in the big picture, Mitch, you have to come away feeling happy about the growth and happy about the future.
Leah, I couldn't have described our season, and our prospects going forward better than you just did. Having said that, the players, coaches, and fans, I'm sure they're still mourning. We've been meeting with the players the last, 2 days, and, they're beginning to perk up a little bit, but, the pain was felt, widely amongst the group and the coaches, and hopefully they could, learn something, from a defeat like they experienced, from, ourselves, our coaches, each other, and be able to prepare ourselves better for next season.
Mitch, were you stunned that you were mugged as badly as you were by Boston's defense?
Lee, it was a stunning defeat. There's no doubt about it. It's a bitter pill to swallow for the players. We had all hoped to be able to play for a seventh game on Thursday. But, you've been around sports long enough to know that these things happen. And, I'm not in the trenches with the players and the coaches. I tried to separate myself so I could look at the big picture. And as painful as it was, I do know that our future, is a bright one. Kobe has yet to turn 30, assuming he plays for 5 or 6 more years. I don't know why we're not competitive at this level for 5 or 6 more years.
All the years I've done this sports talk show and watched Kobe long distance and close up, I don't think I can ever recall a group of games we had to work so hard to get any look, much less a good look.
I would agree. Boston, throughout the whole season, had the best defense in the NBA. Clearly early on in the playoffs, they struggled with 2 7-game series and then a 6-game series against Detroit, but they found their way in our series. Unfortunate for us, but they did have the best record in the NBA. They did have the best defense in the NBA this year. So, I guess you could say the best team won.
Are you disappointed that after all these years in the league, Lamar Odom continues to be such an in-and-out performer?
I thought this year he had, his best year yet. And Lamar is still a young player, still a developing player, and he's going to have challenges, as are Pau, and Kobe and Derek, next year. If Andrew gets back, then we're going to be when Andrew gets back, we're going to be a very big and a very long team that's going to present problems to other teams just by virtue of our size and length. But, our coaches are going to be challenged, to make the players fit the positions, and Lamar's going to be challenged. So he'll have challenges next year. But I thought he did have a wonderful playoff series leading into the finals, and I don't think anybody on our team had a great NBA Finals. We won 2 games, but I don't think anybody played the way they played during the regular season, individually and as a team.
Have you guaranteed Lamar he will be on this roster next season?
Those types of, decisions in terms of our roster are not made the day or 2 after a season ends. We take some time. I meet with ownership, and we look at our roster. I meet with our coaches, and we look at our roster. We're very pleased with the players we have, but, we'll look at it closer during the offseason, probably within another week or 2. But if we have this team in training camp next October, I'm very happy.
Plain and simple, Bynum grew at an enormous rate on the floor, in addition to his physical growth before he went down with the kneecap injury. You're pretty confident that he'll be 100% and there won't be any setbacks through the summer into the fall?
I mean, the injury was a significant injury in terms of the subluxing, kneecap, but it did go back into place naturally, and it did heal. Towards the end of the healing process, looked like there was a chip that was floating, and he had something, called the flap that was hanging down. So there was a decision made to go in with the scope and clean it out. No surgery is a minor surgery, but if you had to say, was that a minor surgery, then you'd probably say yes, it was, because it was just in to clean it out. So we don't anticipate, anything affecting his career, to become of this injury next year. But he has a lot of work to do this summer. He has to get that leg back into shape, and then he has to work on his conditioning and get his basketball skills back because he hasn't played since January.
Mitch, are you boxed in terms of off-season deals by the contracts that you've got to make decisions on? You got Sasha, you got Turioff, you got the multi-year deals that many would say you're stuck with now with some of these other players, the Mims and the Waltons and the Vladrads of the world. Are you in a box?
I don't believe we're in a box. I mentioned earlier that if we went to training camp with the same team, yet had a healthy Trevor Ariza and Andrew Bynum, and we were able to bring back our free agents that are free this summer, then I'd be very happy with this team. Just incredibly ecstatic about the possibilities. In terms of being able to go out and pursue free agents this summer, there aren't really that many unrestricted free agents that would be available at the level that we can afford, based on the exceptions that the NBA gives us. I think there might be a couple of free agents, if they opt out of their contracts, that are difference makers, but those guys are going to make between $12 and $16 million. And we would never have that cap room anyway because we're well beyond that. So I don't think it's a significant year in terms of free agency for teams that are over the cap. So I'm not as concerned this year as I may be in other years.
Well, you worked hard. I know there were a chunk of years you took a lot of public hits, but now, obviously, the Gasol trade coupled with the growth of some of those draft picks has really brought you back front and center to be an elite franchise. I credit you for hanging in there and being tough about it and not lashing back at anybody and everybody who was critical, but the thing worked out. I think in a big picture, you got to be pleased.
I've said it several times, and I'll say it again. I'm most pleased for our fans in Los Angeles and for Jimmy and Jerry Buss, because of the patience, and the experience that they have in dealing with, the environment that we deal with here in Los Angeles. They've been very supportive and involved on every single decision. So I am very thankful to have ownership and a staff that I have, and to have the fans that we have in Los Angeles support this team.
Mitch, one final question as we go toward draft Thursday. Is there any conceivable way you could trade into the first round and do something by moving either expiring contracts or contracts plus whatever picks you've got, or do you think you are where you are and that's about it?
Lee, it's possible. I don't think it's likely. My guess is we'll go through the draft, with our present pick, which is the 58th pick in the draft. If anything, we may have an opportunity to move up in the second round, but I'm not sure we'll have the opportunity to move into the first round. We'll explore it. We clearly can't trade a future first for a present first because we already traded away 2 to get Pau Gasol. So I don't think that option is going to exist. But, we'll see what the future holds in the next 6 days. When you're playing, you don't make the calls to other teams because you don't want it out that you're calling about players. So we really have to be busy starting yesterday, looking at opportunities that may exist between yesterday and next Thursday's draft.
Mitch, always enjoyed talking basketball with you. Thank you so much. We'll stay in touch, and we'll talk to you after the draft.
Thanks, Lee.
Mitch Kupchak, Lakers general manager, classy guy.